Thank the member for Moreton. I'll call the clerk.
Committee and Delegation Business Presentation and Statements number 2, Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security.
I'll call the member for Wannon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd like to update the House on the delegation undertaken in association with the Australian Citizenship Amendment Bill, Allegiance to Australia, Bill 2015. This delegation was taken in association with our current inquiry into the Australian Citizenship Amendment Bill. Countering violent extremism and protecting national security are some of the most critical issues facing Australia at the moment, but they occur in a global context. To inform the current citizenship inquiry and broader national security issues, the committee was granted special approval from the presiding officers of both the Houses to undertake a delegation to the United Kingdom, France and the United States. I and 2 other members, the member for Berowra and Senator Fawcett, undertook the delegation. The Deputy Chair, the member for Holt, was to accompany us but regrettably was unable to attend. The committee approved Senator Fawcett to attend in his place. Across the 3 nations, the committee met with a range of government departments, a range of intelligence agencies and experts. Just to give you a sense, Mr Speaker, in the UK we met with Scotland Yard, the Office for Security and Counter-Terrorism, Office of Surveillance Commissioners, Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the Home Office, the Independent Reviewer of Terrorism Legislation, the Interception of Communications Office and the National Security Directorate. In France, the Unit for Coordinating Anti-Terrorism, the Director-General of Internal Security, the Oversight Committee, the Ministry of Justice and the National Intelligence Coordinator. Mr Speaker, in France, the delegation met for the first time with the intelligence agencies of French, and we were the first parliamentary delegation ever to be invited into the French intelligence agencies, and they made particular note of that. In Washington, we met with the CIA, the FBI, the National Counter-Terrorism Centre, the House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, the State Department and the Homeland Security Department. Once again, Mr Speaker, I'd inform the House was the first time a parliamentary delegation had ever met with both the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. When we met with the House Intelligence Committee, over 12 members of that committee turned up for the discussion. And the final leg was in San Francisco, Mr Speaker, where we met with Twitter, Google, Facebook, plus with 3 cybersecurity experts at Stanford University. The delegation had the opportunity to discuss how citizenship revocation for dual nationals engaged in terrorism-related activities has been used in other nations. The committee discussed the effectiveness of these measures in combating risk, the practical and operational requirements and the critical review and oversight mechanisms needed. All those we spoke to in each nation agreed that a range of tools and approaches are needed to combat terrorism on different fronts, and that citizenship revocation is a much-needed and effective mechanism, in particular to address the threat of returning fighters. Combating the radicalisation of individuals, particularly through social media, was an important topic of conversation. Social media means the radicalisation of youth can happen on our doorstep. Daesh or ISIS is sending out almost 100,000 pieces of extremist propaganda a day, glorifying terrorist violence. The UK, France and the US are well advanced in working with communities to counter the online propaganda of Daesh, expose their recruitment strategies and assist youth at risk who are targeted through social media. This is an area where there is scope for Australia to increase its response. Another issue discussed during the delegation is the protection of classified intelligence information in warrants, affidavits and other court proceedings. Mr Speaker, I think those who want to speak in a minute will do so in quiet.
Yes,
And I would appreciate—
if those on my right could cease the chatter while the member for Wannon is completing his remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. The UK has an advanced system of special advocates who represent the interests of clients but also have access to certain classified information which may not be able to be presented in other circumstances. This system importantly balances security needs with ensuring fair representation during judicial proceedings. Speaking with UK agencies, the Independent Reviewer of Terrorism Legislation and a special advocate provided an invaluable insight into the benefits of this approach. Meeting with internationally renowned think tanks, the delegation explored the drivers behind the growth of Daesh. Understanding the social and economic issues of the region and the humanitarian refugee crisis occurring provides a better understanding of the modus operandi of Daesh, the dangers it presents and the efforts required to counter the monstrosities being committed. Being able to engage internationally with decision-makers, policy-makers and operational response areas on all these topics was instrumental, and the committee will be immensely assisted in its future examination of national security measures because of those high-level international discussions. Mr Speaker, there are protected cables which follows our visit. They will be provided to members of the Intelligence and Security Committee, as will a report by the delegation. I thank the Parliament for the opportunity to undertake this delegation and for its support in assisting the committee to bring that international context to its important scrutiny work.